Rex Murphy has been thinking about the tragedy in Tucson this week. Rex, what do you have for us?
Well, Peter, some of the commentary and politics that followed that awful Arizona shooting were contemptible.
Tomorrow morning on The Current with guest host Arlene Dickinson of CBC's Dragon's Den, Mike Lazaridis, the co-founder of Research in Motion on Fueling Innovation in Canada. That's at 8:30 a.m. on CBC Radio 1.
Running a restaurant is a very hands-on type of business.
I like to take pics of seasonal ingredients, send it over to my chef.
Having that attention or that focus on quality, it's about attention to details.
Pomelo grapefruit, this is going to be great for salads. We love to keep the menu fresh.
The act of a sadly deranged man in Arizona last weekend, leaving 6 dead and 13 injured, was surely a tragedy, a thing to mourn in and of itself. Murder and injury occupy their own universe of grief and misery. However, under the deplorable partisan rubric of any old stick will do, some politicians and commentators use the horror as mere raw material to stir up clouds of anger, accusation, and calumny against political foes. The tragedy was mined and picked over for feverish exploitation and unconscionable finger-pointing by political partisans, and what is often the same thing in the U.S., members of the media and online commentators, some of whom, in the treating of this, were prodigiously offensive and irresponsible. Obama, in his speech last night, got one essential point right. Quote, "The truth is that none of us know exactly what triggered this vicious attack." End of quote. The attempts to find and fix an all-purpose, self-serving, demonizing political explanation was therefore illogical and spurious. This deep truth rolled by unsaluted by whole packs of frothing pundits and politicos, job-owning on talk shows and blogs in newspapers and online comments. They, the rabid cognoscenti, leaped to judgment almost as the shots were echoing and spun a bundle of bile and vacuous accusation against their opponents. They slandered Sarah Palin, libeled a citizens' movement, and pushed ever more lurid theories to prove how the actual shooter, the man who got the gun, filled it with bullets, and pulled the trigger over and over, he was nothing but a puffball blown by the real villains, a climate of hate, harsh language about Obamacare, or some imagined falling off from a standard of civility. Well, madness doesn't rest on a pillar of civility, and the deeds of madness cannot be charted by the rules of cause and effect. And as for the murderer's actual, real political interests, a close friend of his gave a definitive picture yesterday. Quote again, "He did not watch TV. He disliked the news. He didn't listen to political radio. He didn't take sides. He wasn't on the left. He wasn't on the right." End of quote. Rocks have more political interests than this guy. And there, in 6 curt sentences, is a total, utter dismissal of all the unseemly, vile, and overblown speculation put up by morbid and unruly partisans since the first hour of the shooting. The dead could not be allowed to rest or the injured to repair, while at great cost to the dignity and reputation of the United States, the slanders multiplied, and a brutally painful occasion was desecrated. I'm far from optimistic that Obama's speech last night will really change matters. Politics and rhetoric, posturing and plotting in the United States too often reaches levels of frenzy, hatred, and passionate irrationalism. The country is cutting itself up with the savagery of its partisanship. Has been since Clinton through Bush, and now with Palin and Obama and the Arizona murders, is at the top of a very dark summit. For The National, I'm Rex Murphy.